Hello and welcome. I'm sure everyone's anxious to get into the technology, the nitty-gritty, to get your hands dirty, to start writing SQL code. But before we do that, I just want to talk about sort of the framework and context and focus specifically on some terminology and the functionality of databases versus database management system, what's data, and so forth. Okay, so let's get started. The first distinction I want to make is, what the heck is data? Right? Everybody has an intuitive sense of what data is, probably, but what does it mean for our purposes? It means any fact or figure that reflects some condition in the world and that is represented symbolically. We're dealing with symbols. So symbolic representation is important for our purposes. And what is a symbol and where can it be represented? A symbol is an abstraction. It's a code, letters and numbers and natural human language represented in writing. Ones and zeros too, etc. So we can represent our symbols in the way that human beings tend to communicate them, which is in language, written or spoken. Of course, pardon that, computers deal more with symbols, zeros and ones, typically in binary computers, represented on in main memory, represented magnetically on a hard disk, and so forth. Okay, so that may seem self-evident, but I think it's important to get out of the way. Then what's the difference between data versus information versus, say, wisdom? Because this is a useful context for a database designer. We're trying to get, data turned into information, information turned into wisdom. How do we do that? By making sure that data is accurate, that it's available, and that it gets in the right people's hands and minds at the right time in the right format. That's kind of the overarching goals of information technology professionals in general, so it's really important to think about that in a very broad way. So data, is the facts and figures. They don't necessarily have any context. They're not necessarily being accessed by human beings. Just raw facts and figures. Imagine, the telephone book is filled with data. Hard disks are filled with data. To turn that data into information means, I'm sorry for that, I don't know why that keeps showing up. To turn it into information means to get it in a format, in a time and a place and a format that allows a change to occur in one or more human beings' heads that makes a difference in what they do, how they think. That's information. So data lives in a database, in a dictionary, in a phone book. Information lives in human minds. And it is sufficiently refined and accessible to make a difference. Now, wisdom, of course, which is a little far afield for database managers to really strive for, but it's something worth mentioning, is the ability, over months and years, to sort of distill the implications of the information that you've had access to, and the implications of the decisions that you've made as a result of that information, and turn it into an ability, sort of an intuitive sense often, to do the right thing to accomplish your ends.